Hi everyone, my name is Marco with Board Game Revolution. I have a special treat for you today. This man and his game has been basically around the world 1.5 times in the amount of travel he's been doing. I have to say, for a first-time creator, I am extremely impressed with his dedication and commitment he has done to make sure his game has been seen by as many people as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you now to Rob McBride of OverBattle. Hey,
How are you? Thanks for having me.
well, thank you for joining us. I'm so glad that we could find a time for you're not actually on the road or at the convention, that we can actually speak.
Right, for sure, for sure.
So, first off, how do you do it? How do you spend that much time on the road, to make sure that your game is out there?
It's a challenge. I'm blessed that I have supportive family. My girlfriend is wonderful. My friends are strong. They'll pick up things for me as I'm driving across country and no cell zone service and things like that. But it's been a challenge. We've been at 13 conventions since Gen Con, since August, about one convention every 3 weeks on the average. And I've got about 40,000 miles now on my car, on my new car, and that just since April. And 1.5 times around the world, like you said. Thanks for the reminder.
Oh, you're very, very welcome about that because I'm impressed because that's not something that's common with a new first-time creator because typically they don't have either the funds or the ability to do it. But here you are. When did you start actually pitching this game to conventions and to people?
Our coming out party was Gen Con. So Gen Con 2018, I told my guys, my team, I said, if we're going to go out on the road, I'll handle the heavy lifting. But if we go out on the road, let's do Gen Con first. Let's do the biggest convention in the world that is gaming specific first. And then if we can do that, we can do all the rest. And so my friend Jay says, fail faster. So there I was the ability to fail really, really fast if we came out of the box at Gen Con, sadly. But it was great. We had a good time. And there you go.
Right. And, because of this, I have seen your campaign, before even, the Kickstarter, you've been working on the Kickstarter page because people just been taking pictures of it saying, oh, I played this awesome game, you guys got to try it, he's going to be at this convention, oh, they're going to be at this convention, and then it's just like a constant outpour because of this. And I'm just going to say kudos to you.
Thank you.
Great job, Rob, on that, because most don't have that in them, that drive. And I know I've said that before, I'm saying it again, way to go. So before we go on to your game, let's talk about you. Who are you and what got you into board gaming?
I am Rob McBride. I am from Indiana. I was born and raised in Indiana. I live out here in Arizona now. I travel back and forth. Most of my development guys, I've got 3 really close friends that helped pass the logic test on each piece of the game as we went along. They're in Indiana. So that's who I am. What was the other part of the question?
What got you into board gaming?
Oh, got me into board gaming. Okay, so dyed-in-the-wool war gamer. I'm a war gamer. I'm an Axis and Allies, World War II, 4, 5, 6, 8 hour, big game type of guy. Hundreds of pieces. And so as a war gamer, that's where I was. We all play the fun little games. I've got Azul. I've got Drop It. We have quite a collection back there. If I did a shelfie, you can see all the games. But my passion was wargaming. So I took the war game and said, my friend said, hey, let's create our own game and let's set it in space. And I'm like, okay, let me think about that for a while. So we created a company around doing that and created what you see behind me in OverBattle. It's a war game, but here's the key. So as people sit down and play, they're like, I'm not really into that. Just give it a shot. Take a look. It has worker placement. It has engine building. It has drafting. It has co-op and semi-co-op. It has a refugee turned mercenary. It has all of this elements in the story that play out in the game and the game that play out in the story. And so as a gamer, I was able to take all my past wargaming experience, everything that I liked in all the other games that we play that aren't war games, and come up with something that's an experience instead of just a game. So that's who I am. That's what I've done, and that's how I got to where I'm at today.
Now, I'm with you there. When I was 14, I started with Warhammer. And, that's how I got started really into the board game besides D&D. And, like, war games is one of my favorite type of games to play.
Cool.
Just, building up the strategy and tactics,
Sure.
and, moving across the table and making, little strategic plans like, oh, no, they've come at me this way. I now have to change what I'm doing. And it's so fun, but not many people want to join you at that table unless they're other hardcore war game fans.
Right.
So with OverBattle,
go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to relate that to with OverBattle. I've heard from non-war game fans that they love it. So how did you bridge that gap that was there?
Okay, so first thing is most war games are long, super long. There's a lot of time in between elements and phases and turn movement, and we're like, I got to fix that. That is not. I didn't want to have something that takes 2 hours to set up, takes 45 minutes to set up. I didn't want to have something that you have to play over 12 hours all weekend, set it up and come back next week. All that stuff was all non-starters for us. And so we created a game that would play 2 players in 2 hours, 4 players in 4 hours. Now I'm in the time zone that a lot of other good games play. We look like a heavyweight. To answer your question, we look like a heavyweight, but we play like a medium weight. And as soon as you sit down, literally, you make your first move, you're in the game. So there is no setup time. I have a 6-foot board, 1,000+ pieces in the box, and there's no setup time. So I think it takes you longer to set up Monopoly than it takes you to set up OverBattle. And that is an attractant. When people sit down and find out, really? I'm playing now? Yeah, right now. And the time will go by so fast. Like, I can't believe it's taken. I'm already ready to go to the next round, and we're 3 hours in. So it grabs you and it holds you. That's how I've been able to get other genres and other gamer types to come away from the table and say, man, I wasn't expecting what I got, but oh my gosh, that was really something. And it's been said to me that it's an experience. And so I've grabbed onto that word and I've kept it. It's an experience. OverBattle is an experience, not just a game. And therein lies the difference. That is what grabs others and makes them such I call it building my own army. They're out there for me now. They're like, wait till you see this. Wait till you play this. So
right.
Thank you for the question.
Isn't it that you actually basically incorporated setup into gameplay?
Correct.
Which is not what most war games are. It's, you have your army, you have to write out, the 3,000 point army, of what you're going to have in it. And then you're setting up the terrain and all that. But no, for you were like, no, let's make that all part of the game.
Correct. We have a 6-foot board. Now it's modular. So the board is, it's in 18-inch sections. So there's 4 sections. You can play 2 sections for 2 people, 3 sections for 3 people, 4 sections for 4 people. So it goes from 3 feet to 6 feet. However, when you lay the board out, you set the 4 sections up, it's time to play. When you grab one of these planets behind me, some are big, some are small. And as soon as we make that first selection, it's game on. The difference of what that planet size plays out in the game is so significant. Then we start with this blank shade of paper, and we start to place the units on the board one at a time. And it slowly develops into what your game looks like. So there's literally no setup. We've taken the setup and turned that into the pre-phase of the entire game. And I've had folks say, I love that as much as I love the game. That's where I have to make my changes next time to have a difference going forward. And we sort of built in replayability right into the design. And if you get people that can't wait to come back at a convention, they played on Friday and they want to come back and play again on Saturday, they want to come back and play again on Sunday, okay, I think I've built replayability in there. And it all starts from the very first piece. Setup is the game.
Now let's talk more about
it's a game inside the game.
Right. Let's talk about the story, because that's also been fleshed out through you. Is that not only were you like, we're going to make the game from start to end, the whole game, we're also going to flesh out a nice story about it. So give us a nice quick synopsis so we're not ruining it, what the story is actually about, but, give us a little taste and a teaser.
Okay, sure. So we had 3 races that lived together in harmony. We're dealing with aliens. So these 3 races live together. A 4th race shows up, and they're welcomed in as refugees. However, they have their absolute own agenda. What they do, and this 4th player, I've been asked, is that a non-player character? No, that's actually a character in the game. So you have 3 players playing this game, and you have 1 player playing their own subset inside of their game. Completely different analysis, completely different process. And the backstory on these guys, they're ancient races. They're really there to take over everything. And so they are befriended. They're welcomed in as refugees. And immediately they start in. Marco, you don't need Rob. You're good enough on your own. Rob, you don't need any of those guys. You're good enough on your own. I'll help you. And so their back and forth is what creates the war in the first place. And they live on all of our planets. They're already part of our families, and they're going to stab us in the back sometime throughout the game. And so we've got these aliens who are friends. We've got this arrival who seems like he's going to fall out of the sky. He's a refugee, but he's not at all. That is completely a ruse. We have I use a writer in Chicago. Her and I do a few hours every week. We've been writing now for 1.5 years. So we've got 250 plus pages of the world and the story of who they are and where they came from. And then I took the game and wrapped that into the story, and took the story and wrapped that into the game. And so when we talk about different units doing different things, they've done that in the story. We talk about things in the story about how then that plays out in the game. And it's fascinating to wrap up all the ends. When we're doing a war game, most war games, other than like Warhammer, World War II and Axis and Allies, they're based on history. They have real events that they can go forward on. We had to create our own history, and so that was a big step in developing the entire world that is OverBattle.
Right, and most cases when they say creating a story is probably the hardest thing to do. Do you agree with that? Is that the story was basically like, wow, once this is done, I can finally do everything else? Or was it you had the game down and the story was just kind of a filler?
I would say they have gone hand in hand, actually. So there are sections of the game that I couldn't move forward with until I fleshed out part of the story. And then there are areas in the story which allowed me to move forward in the game. So it's hard. It's a challenge. I've done some songwriting in the past. I fashioned myself as a creative, and I've enjoyed the writing piece. My writer and I will get together and talk, and I'll challenge her. I'll say, no, you know what, that part doesn't seem right, or don't forget we did this and we have to do that. And so I would say in some ways the story is more difficult than the game. While the game took 2 years to develop, we were pretty good at the 6-month mark. Writing, you can take years to write a novel. And so the writing part is definitely a challenge. And I've got a unit that I'm going to do this with in the game. I'm going to move it from here to there. It does this. When we're writing in the story, we may have to talk page after page about what that is, how it works, what it looks like, how it plays. And so the stories are certainly more challenging, actually.
Well, that's great to hear, because most times that's where it tends to lack is the story, and because it's more about the game. And to hear that you wanted to go hand in hand on it, that's awesome. And as you guys can see at the bottom right hands of your screen, we actually have the 3 Unity races down below. If you want to talk about them and who they are.
Okay, so in science fiction, it's a science fiction game, we lose track often of the science part of science fiction. And so I'll back up just a step. The board itself, you're looking at the races. The board itself is a star map. It's a star field. It's actually the Hubble photo. It's the biggest picture ever taken. And I took that Hubble photo and I placed it on the map and I turned it around backwards, because if we're aliens, they're looking up at their night sky, which is different than our night sky. And so we started with an actual star field. Then we looked at NASA and we said, where does NASA think there are stars that have life? And there's a star called Gliese 581. Well, if there's a star system called Gliese 581, then the people from Gliese have to be called the Galicians. And so our blue female, tough and rough technology engineering character that we have in the game, she's from Gliese 581, which is a real star system. The brawny brown Taborites, they're our defense legions. They were a planet called Ta Buddhist. NASA thinks that probably supports life. We're like, okay, Ta Buddhist, Taborite, it fits. The Meteorians are yellow. They're the political leadership in the race. They're from a star system called Dorado. And you can look up in the night sky, see Dorado. And I think, okay, Dorado. For me, down here in the Southwest, Dorado, El Dorado's gold. So they became the gold yellow character. So all of the characters in the game have specific real world, real science underpinning. The Sin, the guys who arrive from nowhere in this giant ruse that they're pulling on everybody, there's a planet, there's a star actually that NASA thinks that has lost what they called gravitational adherence to the galaxy, which means the star's just spinning out of control. It's leaving the galaxy. If the star's leaving the galaxy and there's anybody living on those planets near that star, they probably got the heck out of there. And so that's where our Sin, the red character comes from, the mercenary. They come from a planet that is literally spinning out of space. And it just, everything scientifically fit to build this backstory arc that became the game itself. Meteorians, yellow. Taborites, brown. Galicians, blue. And the Sin are red.
Right, and you guys can see the Sin on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen right there. Now, I have a response from Joe. He said your game looks fantastic. He had a chance to speak to one of your colleagues at PAX Unplugged last year, and his comment about your game, he says, if it has a density such as politics, trade, etc., of I can't think. Twilight Imperium 30, with far less overhead and length, coupled with solo play, he's in. What is your response to that?
Here's my response. Hey, Joe, thanks for the question. Thanks for watching. Access and Allies and TI are on, and I like to use this analogy because it helps paint the story. TI and Access and Allies are on the same family tree as us, the exact same family tree. TI4, space-based, same family tree. OverBattle has its own branch on that tree. So we do have the key to the politics is that it's unwritten. It is something that plays out. Oh, Joe, if you don't attack me here, if we have this agreement, I'm going to go do this, and we're going to maybe collectively turn the tide of this war. And we have this political agreement. Joe, you may keep that agreement, but you may, as soon as I leave, slide in the backside, and now all of a sudden I have to deal with two fronts. So there are that kind of co-op. We call it semi-co-op. Do I have to co-op? Maybe. Do we have to co-op to win the game? Maybe. So it does have a lot of those political underpinnings. And from a TI4, because TI3 took too many days to play, TI4 you could play in 8 hours. We're playing this in 4, maybe 3.5, maybe 4.5. So a much smaller timeline. But you're going to find all the great things you loved in TI are in here, and all the things that took too long aren't in here.
Well, that's great to hear. Now, we have one more comment, and then we're going to continue on. It's from JW. I believe you should know him. He says he's loved developing this game with you, Rob. The responses have been received at the various conventions, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, Jay's one of my guys, my partner. If I got a question, something doesn't work, Jay's the guy, and he'll say no, and he'll bring me something. I'm like, no, that doesn't work, and we go back and forth and back, and we've done this for 20 years. So when I talked about my friends that helped set all this up, Jay's one of the guys, and hey, I appreciate you, buddy.
Well, thank you, Jay, for going along this long journey with Rob over here. So let's actually talk about the gameplay now. So you've actually brought it down to, I believe it's 5 phases in each turn?
That's correct.
All right,
correct.
So let's talk about the first one, which is called Declaration. What are we declaring, and how is it going to affect the other players?
Okay, everything in OverBattle is on a declaration basis. So, and it's binding. There's one thing that's non-binding. Everything else that we declare, I'm going to do this. I'm going to attack you here, and this is the units I'm going to use to accomplish that. I'm going to attack you there, and these are the units I'm going to use to accomplish that. I'm going to go up on the combat system and take an advantage. I'm going to retreat. I'm going to cloak this guy. I'm not going to cloak this guy. All of those declarations play out each round. So you're going to decide and make those declarations. Then the defender is going to do the same thing. If you're attacking someone, they're going to make their declarations. So it's all declaration driven. So it's very smooth, very process oriented. You're going to do that. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. I'm going to do this. And so those declarations are phase 1. Phase 2, if we go straight into the combat. I said I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to move these units and I'm going to attack that spot. I'm going to move these units over and these units over, and I'm going to attack this spot. And so we are going to resolve that combat. All of the movement is baked into the pieces. So each piece, a mech moves 2, a battleship moves 3, a bomber moves 6 spaces on the board. And so we know what the movement is because it's all baked into the pieces. Then when we get into that combat phase and we actually move pieces through the declaration where we're going to fight, the dice are used just to resolve combat. We use a D12 system on there. I'm backwards on the camera. Right there. We use D12 dice, and those are just for the combat. So attack rolls and defense rolls are from the dice. Everything else has built-in movement. There's no rulers. There's no protractors. There's no rolling to see. There's no roll and move. There's no roll and move. You move. You're commanding those units. You know where you want those units to go. Go. And then when we're there, we'll use the dice to decide how we're going to fight. So that's the declarations and the combat phase. Any questions there? You want to move on to phase number 3, the middle phase? All
right, let's actually keep on going. I mean, let's hear how it plays out, and so people get a quick understanding of basically how this runs each turn.
Phase 3. Phase 3 is combat. That's where we actually do the dice. That's where we use the multi-dimensional combat system. We call that Cassie. She's sitting back there in the back corner. It allows us to go up and down in space. So phase 1, decorations. Phase 2, combat movement. Phase 3, the actual combat. We're going to resolve all the combat, find out what our war looks like at this point in time. Where are the pieces? Who owns what? What do they own? Phase 3, combat. Phase 4 is we're going to collect our income. How successful were I? How many planets did I take? How many moons did I accomplish to conquer? How about those asteroids? Did I get an asteroid field? Did I just get one asteroid out there in the middle of nowhere? I add up all that economy, because this is an area control game. The more planets, moons, and asteroids I own, the more economy I have. And so we're moving through space and attacking in space to defend that economy and to increase that economy. We get paid, and now we get to do reinforcements. So many times in war games, I'll fight for Russia, and I'll take a piece of Russia, the Caucasus, and I'll lose it. And Russia will take it back. And I never got to spend the money that I earned. And I take it over again, and then they take it back again. And I never get paid for my actions. In this game, we get paid at the end, and we reinforce with that payment at the end. So declarations, combat, non-combat, collect our income, and apply our reinforcements. Then we roll a D6, and the D6 is a game changer. It is a initiative die that decides how the turn order goes again. You may have gone last, reinforced, got the opportunity to go first in the next round. War is chaos, and so we call it our hope engine. War is chaos. If you've gotten beaten up by 2 other players, you went third, you went last, and you've gotten beaten up. Now, if I just could go again, if I say this often, what if you got to go twice in any of your favorite games? Would that be a different game? Well, here, we've built that into the mechanic. And logically, if you and I are playing and we all called in reinforcements, my reinforcements didn't show up in time because they got a flat tire. Your reinforcements didn't show up in time. We're playing a space game. They got stuck in a nebula somewhere. So the third person playing, her stuff shows up in time. Why does she have to wait? She doesn't. She gets to take those reinforcements and move on. So we roll this die at the end of the round to see who gets to go again first. And if you get to go back to back, it's a game changer. And you could be never too far behind, and the guy in front is never too far forward, because he got to go first. He's flying high. But if he has to go last, he's waded through that process. He's going to feel it. He's going to feel the sting. And so that's why we call that 4X refine. No one's ever out. There's a hope mechanism. You're never out. You've always got hope that I can get in, I can get back in this game. I'm not out. I'm not out. And so it doesn't always play out that way, but it might. So there you go. There's the 5 phases, and it's wrapped up with that initiative die, and you start all over.
Right. And, you know, with how you described it, it sounds extremely smooth. But one of the things I want to talk about is the Cassie system. But we're going to hold off real quick because I want to talk about Endgame Conditions.
Okay.
Because we now know how a battle is, you know, brought through for every turn. But how do we win?
Okay, good question, good question. It is deceivingly simple and extremely difficult, potentially. When we draft, when we first sit down, and I said there's no setup time because you're going to start the game immediately. When we pick our first planet and moon, Marco, that is your home world. When I pick mine, that's my home world. And so I have to defend my home territory, my sovereignty. I have to defend that 100%. To win the game, I have to take one space of your planet, your sovereign area. However, I mentioned we have to have 100% of our own sovereignty. Don't forget the Sin. The Sin showed up as refugees, and they live amongst all of us. So we already start without our sovereignty. Then we have to not only try to create a victory condition by me taking part of your planet or you taking part of my planet, then I have to deal with the guys that are already back on my home world, because they're going to cause immediate problems for me having my own sovereignty as soon as I trigger a victory condition. So own your own sovereignty, take one space of someone else's, you win the game. To accomplish that, you have to have your own sovereignty, which means you have to deal with the Sin. And the Sin, so the Sin have I mentioned a very unique role. For up until you create a victory condition, the Sin don't die. There's 1,000 pieces. It plays over 6 feet. It's very smooth, or we wouldn't be able to accomplish that in 3 or 4 hours. The Sin don't die. And you're like, how could that even be? They join me, fighting for me. They join you, fighting for you. They will attack and defend at the same time. I will jump in front of a bullet to protect the Sin, because they don't die. However, they do join the victor. So if I lose, all my Sin are joining you. If you lose, all your Sin are joining me, which is a good thing early. Remember about we have to have our own sovereignty. That's a terrible thing later, because as soon as one of the 3 unity races, trigger a victory condition, the Sin now reveal themselves. They say, and this is where the story comes in, they say, you know what, we've waited too long. Your actions are too egregious to ignore. We now are going to reveal that we are actually here to take everything for ourselves. We're here to battle each and every one of you. And now we are at war with everyone. I'm no longer your friend. I am absolutely your foe. And all of a sudden, you've gone from having this group help you, you go out and create a victory condition, and then they turn against everybody on the whole board at the same time. That is the experience, and that is the difference of the sin. That's how you win the game. If you can have your sovereignty, kick out the sin, take someone's single space, you win. It's a lot harder than it sounds.
Yeah, it does sound quite difficult, because not only are you having to fight the other players, but also here's a group that says, oh, wait, you've been too aggressive, so I'm going to kill you anyway. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Now, I have a comment here from Van Overbay. He says,
hey, Van.
Looks and sounds awesome. Killer package, and I love the gameplay background and details. Thank
you. Van's got a great pirate game. He's got a pirate game coming out on Kickstarter real soon as well. So thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. I don't know him personally. I know him from Facebook and for the groups, but appreciate the kind words.
All right. So now I want to get into the Cassie system, because I thought this was really intriguing, because in most war games, you know, if you have higher ground, you know, you get a benefit, but you have an alternate to that, which I think is very interesting, and it's more realistic than what is in most war games. So tell us about it, the Cassie system.
Okay, so we'll back up and we'll talk about all games. In gaming, we deal with two dimensions. We're on a flat plane. Everything happens in a flat environment. So in a war game, if a fighter is attacking a man, traditionally he rolls a 6, he rolls a 2, and it's just a flat engagement. Well, that's not how real world is. The real world, a fighter would come up really high and take a dive bomb approach to attack its target. And the target's not just going to sit there. It's going to get down in a hole, run inside of a building, hide behind a car, something like that. And so that real world engagement is what we play out with our combat assault system. The combat assault system we call Cassie. And so she's back there in the corner. It is multi-tiered. And when we do this real world action, I'm going to come up and I'm going to attack from high. I get a +1 and I actually move my piece up onto the upper level of the board. As a defender, I'm just not going to sit there and take it. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to go down and I actually move my piece down into the bottom level of the board. Now the assaulter has a +1. The defender has a +1 on both sides of the battle. Here's the key. Combat occurs on the midline. So the top row can hit the middle, but it can't reach the bottom. The bottom row can hit the middle, but it can't reach the top. And so those declarations, every round of combat, it's declaration driven. This guy's going to not come down from high. He's going to take a metal plane so he can get down and get you. So you have to decide each round, do I go up? Do I come down? How do I engage with each unit that I'm utilizing in this battle? It's real world mechanics played out in multi-dimensional space right there on the board. Lastly, in space, we're dealing with space. So you've got battleships and carriers and destroyers and cloaked scouts, and you have all these things in space. There is no up and down in space, but there is forward and back. And so we take that same analogy and go forward and back. If I have an entire fleet come forward and I want to take my transports and protect the men, I will fall back in space. We allow them to go down and pick up an advantage on defense. On the assault side, if the other guy's hiding, I don't have to go chase them. So now I can take an advantage and come up and attack fewer targets. And so we can still use Cassie. We can still use the combat assault system, multi-dimensional, real-world actions of what's going on in the battle, just like it really would happen. That's it. That's Cassie.
Well, like I said, the way you describe it, the way it's played, is just an absolutely phenomenal, intuitive combat system that feels like it should have been already in games, especially when it comes into to war games, because it's just logically makes sense.
Right. Well, licensing is available, so we can license that to anything you want to. We can license it for sure.
There we go, right there. So show us some of those components you have sitting beside you, like the planets and the moons.
Okay, so everything is premium. So OverBattle, as gamers, first thing I do when I buy a game is I got to run out and buy new dice. I got to throw away the black and white dice, and I got to get color-specific dice. And man, I'm going to upgrade the board. I'm going to get a gamer mat instead of this cardboard board. Or I'm going to get locking cases to put the stuff in because I get my chits are all over the box, and I dump the box in the car, and it's just a mess. I'm a gamer. I'm going to fix all of that. So I said, all right, out of the box, we're going to have everything is premium. This is already a matte material. 2mm matte, die slab printed, the planets, the moons, same thing, the moons. The asteroids are the same way. So everything is matte material. The play surface rolls up into three sections for 3 players, 4 sections for 4 players. It fits inside the box that way. Otherwise, how do you fit a 6-foot board in that box? You put it in quarters, and it goes right in the box with no problem. And so, again, all premium, all matte material. I do have, I'm going to put an add-ons page on the Kickstarter, of course. It'll have a one-piece board. If you want a one-piece board, we've got it. We've got a one-piece board. Perfect setup for game toppers. We work with Berkey, and it fits exactly, seamed edges, stitched edges. It's a fantastic one-piece board, but all the dice are color-specific. So in the box, everything's color-specific on the dice. The cards, we have identifying cards that tell you what each mechanic is for each piece. It's not a card game, but it does have that. We have mechs, little bitty mechs. So we have mechs in the game. All of the pieces, we have space stations. There's a space station. So talk about the story a little bit and how things build and how things work. This space station has 8 docks, 4 big, 4 small. On the piece, that plays out in the game. You can build 4 large units, 4 small units, a total of 8, because there's 8 docks on the piece. The shipyard works as a small factory. It only builds the smaller units, but it has 10 docks on the piece. Guess how many pieces you can build? 10 pieces at this factory, at this shipyard, in orbit around space. So all of our play pieces, Jay, who was on JW, was on earlier. We worked to create our own IP. All of these units are something that was non-existent before. Jay and my buddy Todd created some 3D models. We got the models where we wanted them. Then I used a professional to take them to the next step, and we created all custom units. So we have that. We've got chips back here. Chips are counters. They're interlocking and stackable, so they do not slide. That's important. They won't slide when you use them. These are indicators for extra units and things like that. We have shield markers. Cassie comes in it. Everything's premium. I mentioned the cases. 250 pieces per race. And so nothing moves. You drop it on the ground. Nothing's going to move. And it provides us the ability to keep everything in its spot. And most trays and most elements are nice, but you can't shake them, and the lid's going to come off. With 1,000 pieces, I didn't want to have stuff everywhere. So locking hinge lid cases come in the game, in the box. Everything's there. Back up there are player screens. So when I'm buying up my stuff, I'm hiding it. You don't know what I've got. I bought this stuff. You have no idea. Do I have 3 battle? As we're developing the game and putting stuff out there, I've concealed what I've purchased. My purchase is different from your purchase. And because everything is modular, every game is different. Where you put this on the map today will be different than where you put it tomorrow. And so every game is going to be different from a territory perspective, and every game is going to be different from the units that you buy and the units that you use at that moment in time relative to what's happening to you at that moment in time. So it's the real deal. Right.
And so before we get into your actual Kickstarter and the price and everything, we have a few questions that people have been asking. So sure. Blake Leafy asked, are there ever any meteors or AI that ever gets in the way or is against everyone?
Hey, how are you? Great question. So in the game, we have a couple mini games where you don't use the board at all. 30-minute tutorial game, how we use this planet. We're going to take some mechs and we're going to attack the planet. We have additionally 6 other games that are written in the back of the story. Capture the flag, where you just stick one piece in the middle. You have 4 corners, 1,000 units, and you come in and try to capture the flag. Specifically to your question, do asteroids and meteors affect? We do have a scenario where the asteroids move. And if you roll the dice, north, south, east, and west, there's indicators on the map, and the asteroids actually move. If a moving asteroid impacts your fleet, that fleet's gone. And so the key is you have to use those asteroids to get some of that economy. And so that creates a whole new fun level. They're not in the story arc, but they are in the box. And so those stories and those ideas are in the box. I'll save this piece for when we talk about Kickstarter specific. That's a little bit special. But,
and we're about to get to that.
Okay,
I just have actually one more comment from Christina. She says,
Hi, Christina.
Love that you designed the game with such detail. I love how you really thought about the experience this would bring to a player or / gamer. The organization, check. Color coordinating, check. Quality, check. Just well done.
Thank you so much. It's labor of love, 2 years. I'm all in. I sold my agency and started a gaming company. And this is the first fruits of that gaming company. I didn't know any other way than to just do it right and to try to bring the things that I have in my professional world and flip it around. If I were on the other side, how would I expect a prototype to look? This is the prototype. This isn't produced. This is the prototype, and I have 15 of these. So they're all identical handmade prototypes that make sure that each piece has the right shape, the right size, the right ability in correspondence to everything else on the game. They weren't always that size. That's why you go through stages of prototyping, but we're there, and we've been using the exact same components. We've refined the play since Gen Con the last 9 months, but as far as the pieces and the colors, very specific design choices that we made there, and thank you for recognizing that.
All right, so let's get into now the thing people have been waiting for. We've had a few questions on it. Kickstarter. So you're launching on Kickstarter tomorrow. Biggest question people have is, what's the price point?
What's the price point? 1,000 pieces, 6 feet, all premium, $179.
All right, so $179 for everything.
Correct, everything. You don't need to go out and get anything. It's everything. $179.
Right.
If you buy 2, $159.
All right, so $159 if you buy 2. So next is, what are you planning to reach? Like, what are you asking for in total to be funded?
Okay, so we're done with the development, and so many times in Kickstarter, it's a product that really hasn't had any light of day yet. Well, this is the opposite. This is a product that's done. It's ready to go. We set the funding goal at 75. That allows us to get the injection molding and the components done. Because I made a personal investment in time and dollars and energy, the price point's exceptionally good for what there is in this box. There are a ton of stuff. And the cool thing about the Kickstarter is it allows us to be an exclusive, to provide things specifically for the Kickstarter guys with thoughts of the future. This expands to a 5th and 6th player. The 5th and 6th player, because the board is modular, I can replace 2 sections of the end of the board with a whole different connotation. Maybe there's an entire colony ship printed on the board, things like that. So the 5th and 6th player allows for this expanded presentation. In Kickstarter, we have a wormhole. So only in the Kickstarter, the wormhole allows you to take that separate 2-piece board for the 5th and 6th expansion that's coming out and jump from board to board. Through the wormhole, go from board to board, table to table, from table to table if you wish. You can go space to space, but table to table. And so Kickstarter allows for all this flexibility and creativity, and I can fund it, move it forward, and then fund the expansions. And so that 75,000 will get us there. I think I've had people say, you got a $1 million idea. Okay, I've got people looking at the story in Burbank for a script, for a big screen script. That would be fantastic. The genesis here, Kickstarter is a great space to allow new creativity. And we didn't, again, know any other way to get it out there and get it out there fast and get it out there right. And so that's where we're at in the space.
So what other things are backers expected to get exclusively, or is it just a wormhole? And also, the follow-up question that, since I love your enthusiasm and I don't know there's no right way to stop you talking, I'm going to say, what about stretch goals as well? So we're going to go with Kickstarter exclusives and stretch goals.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna fast forward to expansion because we already have that intentions for that 5th and 6th player. The game doesn't stop here because the story doesn't stop here, right? We have compressed the story down into this game, but if we peel back that onion and look at each layer, we can provide a stage of the game for each layer, and that's our intent. That was our intent from the beginning, to build that whole world. And the Kickstarter exclusive, in the expansion, you'll have a couple wormholes. So in the Kickstarter first edition, you're going to have the ability to have that third wormhole. That's the only way you're going to have it. And the only way you get a third wormhole is in this Kickstarter. What's the benefit of a third wormhole? We can play an unstable wormhole situation. This third wormhole, when you enter it, you may want to come out over here, but you end up coming out way over here on this other space. And so it's going to add an extreme new wrinkle to the game that only the first, 5,000 people are ever going to experience. And so that experience, I can deliver chits and pieces and dice trays, and we can we can deliver all of that stuff. If I can give you an experience that's unique, that's how do I kickstart an experience? The extra wormhole creates a whole new experience only to these first-time supporters. What was the other part of the question? Sorry.
Stretch goals.
Stretch goals. All right. So, as a deluxe game, it's tough. Again, I'm a gamer. I want everything right out of the box. And so, how do I stretch goal? What do I stretch goal? I didn't even want to have stretch goals, to tell you the truth. Stretch goals they're really a phenomenon primarily inside of the gaming world, inside of Kickstarter. Other Kickstarters don't have too many stretch goals. And the Daniel Zahos did an article a couple of weeks back, and he said Kickstarter stretch goals are fake. We already know what our cost is, and we already know what we want to have in there. And so what is a stretch goal if we already wanted it in the first place? I looked at it and said, all right, I can't make better. It's already deluxe, everything, matte material, you name it. So what do I do? So I sat back and I thought, I said, all right, I've got these 60 to 80 millimeter minis that I created for each of the races. I'll stretch goal those. There are a lot of people out there that love to paint, that love to take the material and paint them and make them look right. And so we're going to stretch goal some big minis. Then at all the conventions, I've got this mech that's like this big. It's the exact mech. I should have had it on the table. It's huge. And I want that mech. All right, we're going to stretch goal this guy. It is a 145 millimeter mech. Big mech. We'll stretch goal that. Dice. I already have premium dice. Everything in here is good to go. However, in my travels, I came across this dice that is perfectly balanced. You actually can stack the dice on top of one another and they will stand. You can even take a dice and sit it on its corner, and they're metal, premium balanced dice. For a set of 4 dice is $25. And I said, okay, we will stretch goal these dice. So in lieu of the regular D6, which is a nice D6 anyway, in lieu of the regular D6, I'll stretch goal that for a metal, balanced, premium, perfect dice that you can use in anything. That's $25 just in 4 dice. And so these big minis, those dice, those are all stretch goal levels. And then I got a couple unlocks at the end that we're going to wait and talk about. Some of it might be pretty special too.
Right, and let's keep the mystery there because we don't want to give everything away. So we have another question from Dandy Meeple. He's asking any language translation anticipated for the game, and if not, do you need any translators?
Hi, Daniel. Yes, we do plan. I don't have translators on the team yet. I have 5 artists that I work with really, really close on my art. I mentioned my writer. I mentioned my 4 guys that I work with on balancing each step of the gameplay and making sure that stuff works. The rules currently on the Kickstarter, when I tomorrow, you're going to see the rules are almost like a DM. They're presented as such as a DM would be providing this story to the table, because those are the rules we've used at all of the conventions. I've got 6 months to deliver the product after the Kickstarter, and so we'll have a full written end user book at the time that we do that. I think translations to French and Spanish, possibly German, are a possibility for sure. French, Spanish, German, and English. I probably wouldn't skinny it down any further. Here's the key. If I may, I'll stand up for just a second. On the back of the screen, if I know what the units do, and I know how much they cost, and I understand the movement, there's no other rules you really need, really. It's how do I engage? Once you understand the process, the light bulb goes off. And I sit with people at the conventions, and I tell them, my input's going to be way up here at the beginning, and then it's going to be about here in an hour. And then about 2 hour point, I don't even talk anymore. I get to sit back and watch you guys play. And I watch the light bulb go off with each person when they get it. And they're like, oh, I get it. It's not hard at all. And I think that's going to be very easy to translate into other languages, I hope. It's not – I do have a 32-page book because I wanted to include some of our art. I've got beautiful art, great artists that I work with that have provided just some fantastic story concept arts. I want to put some of the art in the booklet. So it's 32 pages. The leader-led rules are only 16 pages. That's what will be posted at the Kickstarter tomorrow. And translations, I don't have anybody, Daniel. Send me an email.
Yeah, and Dandy said the same exact thing, that you guys should get in contact and he'll be your French translator, English to French.
Nice. There you go.
And yes.
Je ne parle français.
So, and Dandy, he does have lore and backstory to this. So there's going to be a lot of that being translated as well. All right, so we have a launch tomorrow. What time should people expect it?
Is it tomorrow already?
I know, it feels like it.
8 a.m. East Coast.
All right, 8 a.m. East Coast at 7 o'clock Central, and that is also, what is that in California?
It's 5 a.m.
Yeah, 5 a.m. So if you guys want to jump on and you're in the West Coast, 5 a.m., back OverBattle. Rob, thank you so much.
We go all the way through. Thank you. We go through Good Friday. So extend through Good Friday. So 30-day campaign. We end on Good Friday. I think it has a lot of legs. And I thank you for sitting in. I thank you for watching. Marco, I thank you for what you do. You are underrated, man. I tell you. And I told you this offline, how wonderful you've been in assisting. Hey, Rob, I need some art from you. Hey, Rob, here's what time we're going to meet. Hey, Rob, let's get this on track and make sure everything's good. So you do a fantastic job, and thank you. Thank everybody for looking, watching. Check us out on Kickstarter. I'm not perfect. Last guy's perfect. Walked on water 2,000 years ago. So, but it's pretty darn good. And I hope you back us. I hope you enjoy it. And I know you're going to come away with a whole new experience.
Well, thank you, Rob. I'm going to read a few more comments here, and then we're going to go to a close.
Okay, sure. I got all day.
So we have Chad here, who said he enjoyed following your process over the past year or so. Best wishes tomorrow, and I hope you have a wildly successful campaign.
Thank you so much, Ted.
Gerald King. Hey, Gerald, thank you for joining us. If you guys don't know who Gerald King is, he's Kicking It with Gerald King. He has a fantastic show that he typically airs on his own channel, as well as you can find on Board Game Spotlight, Exposure, everything board game. It's everywhere. Gerald, you do a great job. But anyway, he says he doesn't normally play long games, but he got lost in this game for about 4 hours before he even realized what was happening. So that's a great comment to you. Christina says, really looks awesome. Wish you the best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
And JW says, great job, everybody. All right, well, Rob, thank you so much. Make sure to check out his Kickstarter tomorrow. You can look at his page on Facebook at OverBattle. You can also, what's the game company name?
Scyther Gaming, Scyther, Scyther Gaming. And I'm going to take my overbattle.com website and point it straight to the Kickstarter. So
perfect.
That's my intention. So something real simple, not some big drawn out URL. Overbattle.com. It'll dump right to the Kickstarter page. It should. I hope it does. That's tomorrow. So overbattle.com. But yeah, you can catch us on Facebook, Overbattle, Scyther Gaming on Facebook, on Twitter and Instagram, Scyther Gaming Co. I'm going to be heads down in the Kickstarter, so I don't know how many updates I will personally be getting out on Twitter tomorrow, but I'll be there managing the Kickstarter every day. I don't sleep, so literally I don't sleep. We're there to help answer questions. It's thorough, it's complete, it's ready, and I look forward to your support tomorrow.
All right, well, thank you so much, Rob. I'll keep you from, because I know you have another convention, everything that you're setting up for, next 2 weeks or so? This man is unstoppable. Unstoppable.
Yeah, right in the middle of the campaign, I'm going to a convention. So another 80,000 eyes. We have I did the math, 277,000 ticketed entrants to where we've been on display. Over 250,000 ticketed entrants have had the opportunity to already see the game. So that's unheard of, man. I'm crazy.
You are, and I'm so happy for your craziness and your dedication. Good luck tomorrow, Rob. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, that was Rob McBride with OverBattle. Make sure to check out his Kickstarter tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Central Time, and 5 a.m. on Western Coast Time. I'm Marco with Board Game Revolution. That was Rob McBride with OverBattle. Guys, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.